Good morning, everybody.
So I'm Paul de Quay and I work for the Ecological Conversion group, which as of January this year has become a charity. And I want to actually thank Martin for pointing out the point about slavery is an excellent segue into this, because our work is very much about norms, attitudes, and how to change these. So we started off as a group trying, after the Laudato Si, the Pope's encyclical came out, to try and really encourage change in the church on our environmental and our social crises. So two of the key principles of our work, one of them is integral ecology, the reality that everything is interconnected. We can't see any of these things, any of these issues that we see in the world, or the good things in the world, in isolation to one another. So we have society and we have environment. These two things are so deeply interconnected. So this integral ecology is the idea that these networks are themselves interconnected. So that, for example, a flourishing or dysfunctional human society will contribute to a flourishing or dysfunctional biological environment, and vice versa. Our other key principle is ecological conversion. Now this really means it's a commitment inspired by faith to change our lives as to heal the threefold rupture caused by sin with God, with human beings, and with the natural world. So as I say, our work is very much to do with attitudes. So just as a simple diagram, when we put ourselves, our own convenience, our own subjective ethics at the centre of our lives, humanity and our planet become a means to our own convenience. Whereas this is the idea of being a god. But when we recognise we are creatures as part of God's creation and we put God first, humanity and the world we live in become brothers and sisters and a common home. And this is a really important principle of our work. But today I want to talk to you about our sign of hope, which is our project called Journey to 2030. And it's very much about individual and community action and how that can, will and must change the world. Because we need a healthy society, because the environment, society, all these things are so interlinked. We need a healthy society, not just a healthy environment. So I want to explore how tackling our environmental crisis really has to create and be solved by an entire societal revolution of care. And this is something I find incredibly exciting. The opportunity that stands before us to build a better world. And then I want to reveal some secret weapons that we've been developing in our research and development lab. So just to start, the behavioural change is often dismissed when we're talking about climate change. It's something very, very difficult to do because there's so many barriers to isolation, feeling like you can't make any change on your own. But I'd like to point you towards this report, this Changing Our Ways, Behaviour Change and the Climate Crisis. It's got some really great stuff in it. So really, when we're tackling the climate crisis, this is not just about the climate crisis. We can't rely simply on politicians and business to make technological innovations that will inevitably cause further problems. We need evidence points towards that we need a change in the way that we operate as a society as well. And the UN defines sustainable lifestyles as a cluster of habits and patterns of behaviour embedded in a society and facilitated by institutions, norms and infrastructures that frame individual choice. And this is really important when we look at how our society works. So this is my diagram, my very inexpert diagram of how I see society working. So we have government, which is well organised. It makes laws and policies based on economic growth and staying in office. Regulation is many steps behind the business innovation that it funds, and is therefore at the mercy of big business, but it has a relationship here with big business, a two-way relationship. And big business is well organised, It influences government and uses civil society as a planet to make money for a few. And then we've got civil society, which is a ragtag bunch of people led to believe they should not get involved in politics. They're more concerned with looking out for themselves because of the dreams being sold to them by the big businesses and the lie that the government will sort all their problems out for them. This might be pessimistic, but this is by inspiration I've drawn from Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti to try and construct this image. So we could rephrase the UN's definition of sustainable lifestyles by just changing a few words to unsustainable lifestyles. Because unsustainable lifestyles are themselves clusters of habits and patterns of behaviours embedded in a society, facilitated by institutions, norms and infrastructures. You know, these frame our individual choices in order to maximise convenience and profits for just a few. In Laudato Si, Pope Francis says that isolated individuals can lose their ability and freedom to escape the utilitarian mindset and end up prey to unethical consumerism bereft of social or ecological awareness. So we really face barriers in isolation where we think we can't make a change as individuals, as communities. We begin to feel hopeless. And we can see this in many of the different issues that we see in the world that are really symptoms of a wider crisis: climate change, slavery, hunger, the wasteful culture, the throwaway culture, the lives that don't matter at the expense of what we want to consume, the armed conflict, refugees, mass extinction. All these crises are interrelated, and we too in some way personally contribute to them because of the way that our society operates. So not only do we need to address society if we are to solve our ecological environmental crisis, but at the heart of this it's not easy being green for a very, very, very good reason. Another Venn diagram. So stopping climate change is monumentally more than about reducing carbon. It's about a complete reimagining of the way we see and interact with the world. It's ecological conversion, integral ecology. And Pope Francis, again in Fratelli Tutti, looks at the way that we failed to some extent in delivering care during the COVID crisis. And he says, for all our hyperconnectivity, we witnessed a fragmentation that made it more difficult to resolve problems that affect us all. Anyone who thinks that the only lesson to be learned was the need to improve what we're already doing or to refine existing systems and regulations is denying reality. So how do we do this? And we're proposing that it's hard work, but very rewarding and very, very possible. Pope Francis goes on to say that the ecological conversion needed to bring about lasting change is also a community conversion, and that around community actions, relationships develop, are recovered, and a new social fabric emerges. Thus, a community can break out of the indifference induced by consumerism. Now, communities are, places of relationships. They're places of encounter where we share beliefs, dreams, resources, shared interests in the places that we inhabit. We have businesses, we have politicians, we have all sorts of people so communities are an intersection of relationship and resources, in a given geographical place. So our journey to 2030 really is, we envisage a reimagination, rebuilding of our society through asking the question, how can our church institutions and interactions with our wider community facilitate new norms, new infrastructures, and lead to behaviour consistent with our faith and a society that more resembles the kingdom of God. So that we end up something with a better diagram. It was pointed out last night that actually civil society should now be at the top of the diagram, which I will edit for later. But how do we create these ingredients for a sustainable lifestyle? We could say government should be well organised and make laws and policies to ensure human flourishing. Big business provides all work provides dignified work and an equitable share of the earth's resources, and very much focused on well-being and purpose. And civil society should be well-organised coalitions that look out for one another, influence law, and benefit from the business. These shared values and beliefs in the community, such as the dignity of the human person, keep consistency as the business and technology and governments change. An amazingly hopeful book that I would recommend to all of you is this From What Is to What If by Rob Hopkins, who started the Transition Town movement. And he says that if we wait for governments, it'll be too late. If we act as individuals, it'll be too little. But if we act as communities, it might just be enough, and it might just be in time. I love this quote so much. So over the last was it 4 or 5 years? 4 years. We've been working on this. We've come across. We've seen lots of barriers to these behavioural changes. We've been trying to make some creative interventions to help parishes, to help communities really hit the ground running and address some of these barriers. So this is our hope we want to share with you today is our national project, the Journey to 2030. And really it's about how do we help our church communities be the hubs of transformational change in the world we want to see. To be excited about the future, to dream about the future. What if it did turn out okay? Let's start with that. What if our church wasn't dying? What if this? What do we want to see? How can we get there? And really to offer accompaniment to communities in their journey, to know that they're not alone in their journeys. And also, we've built a website, been building a website, it's still very much a work in progress, but to collect lots of resources, lots of stories from around our nation of amazing things communities are doing, and to provide the resources to help communities get involved with things that are already going on, such as we've got this local network map, so you can find, if you're new to this, you want to get involved, where do I find my local network working on these things? There's lots of NJPN member organisations and things represented on this map. Initially, when we launched Journey to 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals were our really main focus. How can the church, with its unique character, how can it work towards this 2030 agenda in a way that only the church could? What was the unique thing we could bring to this agenda? And since then, the Vatican have launched the Laudato Si goals, very much focusing on integral ecology. So how all of these goals, so spirituality, the response to the cry for the poor, sustainable lifestyles, ecological education, ecological economics, a response to the cry of the earth, and community resilience, how are all these things integral to a community's response to our ecological and social crisis? And this is our secret weapon for now that we're launching this weekend, and it will be available on our website in the next few days. But we'll be selling some of these at the back, or haggle or steal them as you see fit. But really, we've turned these goals and lots of the barriers that we've been seeing in parishes and communities into an activity pack, so that parishes can really hit the ground running. They're very much focused on relationship building within communities. So rather than seeing environmental or social work as a complete separate entity to other church mission, how can each member, whether you're the flower arranger, whether you're the life group, how do all of these aspects of an integral ecology, how do they influence, how do they flavour the work that we're doing in every aspect of our daily lives? And later, after the coffee, we will be launching another of our new activities, which is this Let Us Dream activity, which we'll be doing some creative drawing with you all after coffee. Just as an example of projects, what this looks like practically. This is a parish that we've been working with who are inspired by this reality of integral ecology. And this was a dilapidated garden that they had, and the priest, what started off as some apple trees that were donated, there was lots of interest in these apple trees, and since then it's grown and grown, and now there's an allotment garden which is providing flowers for the church. It's we're looking at how the food can provide for the food bank, how even people who don't have the opportunity to grow food themselves can get involved, how the therapeutic nature of these community activities, how they can all be part of this integral vision of solving our ecological and social crisis. Thank you.